So there's no way around this. This is the worst part of making the car. The last tiny bit of details. I hate every part of this. So we're going to hold on those and get into this. We're going to do windscreen wipers, wing mirrors, and we're going to do the underside of the chassis. I think we've got an exhaust to put in and number plates. Good news, the number plates are dead easy to do. And all the little details like locks and windscreen washers. So I don't know why I hate these so much. We're going to find in particular wing mirrors I always find difficult, and I don't know why. But the good news is, once we've done that, depending on where you want to go with this tutorial, we can call this car finished. I have got plans for this tutorial to continue. There's some bits I'd like to get into. I want to do some basic rigging and animation. I want to look at UV unwrapping and doing texture work. Maybe we can design a livery for it. I'd like to look at maybe doing some separation of the panels, some smoothing. We could turn it into a high poly. We are going to look at how we could bring it into a game engine. There's a lot to get into, but I want to finish off this part of the tutorial with it, because maybe you're absolutely sick of French hatchbacks from the late 80s, early 90s, and you want to do something else, and that's cool. But yeah, let's get into it, and we're going to start by doing the windscreen wipers. So I don't have great reference for these. And what I do for my cars is I do a really simple stylized version. I don't worry too much about making them super accurate. There's loads of things that we could be modelling. You know, we've got these like little divots, and we've got this kind of wiper blade, which I don't think is standard because I'm a nerd and know these things. But honestly, by the time, you know, especially for my game where you're going to be viewing it like this, we just need the basic shapes. So the trickiest part is actually this blade here, because it conforms to the windscreen and we don't have a uniform path across. So the easiest way to do that is we're going to take the windscreen and duplicate it, and then we're going to tab into edit. I want to apply my mirror modifier because we've only got half, so we're just going to actually click on this arrow down here and apply. I'm also just going to turn on my screencast keys because they're turned off at the moment. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to then cut into the geometry the bottom part of this blade so that we know that it's fitting perfectly on the windscreen, and this line here kind of looks like it could be a good starting point. So remember that this is now duplicate geometry. We can do what we want to it. It's not going to mess up our model. So we can just put a cut, Control R, and put a cut in here, and you want to make these pretty thin, maybe a bit thinner than you'd think. So this one looks about right, and I would say we're going to go from here to maybe here, so we're just going to put a cut in here. Oh, let's just move it slightly. And then we've got a gap, so maybe we're going to put a cut in here. And again, they may be slightly offset, but I think for a stylized design, having them kind of in the same place works. So let's put some in there. And we'll just select these faces and see if they're looking kind of even. And again, windscreen wipers they're not exactly the same size, but I don't know how much those details really matter. I think what we'll do is we're just going to slide these vertex slightly. So we'll select both, tap G twice, and just slide along like that. Okay, so something like this. Yeah, I think that looks about right. And then we're going to hit Control and I and invert our selection, and then hit X to delete faces. And we've got these two extra bits of geometry that now sit on top of the windscreen. And if we go to our material and click on the minus on this car glass, it will just give us the plastic. Now this is cutting through the surface at the moment, but that's okay. So I'm going to hit Alt and A to make sure I'm just the A key even to make sure I've got everything selected, and then hit Alt and E and extrude face along normals. So we just want to kind of make that bottom part of the blade. And this is where I start stylizing things, and potentially the wrong way, but let's not worry about it. So we're going to put a loop cut in there and a loop cut in there, and we're going to select both of them and move over to our bevel tool, and we're going to bevel like this. Oh, I'd like that slightly thinner than that, I think. So we're going to hit Alt and E to extrude face along normal, something like no, we're not going to do that. We're going to actually just manually select these faces, so sorry for that. Just thinking on my feet as usual. And now we're going to hit Alt and E to extrude face along normals. And what I want to do now is select these two edges. We'll do them one at a time. So select this edge, tap G and just slide it. And then we'll do the same. So slide it kind of roughly the same. Okay, cool. And then we're going to do a similar thing. Let's select these two faces. And on this one, we might need to get a similar spacing. We're probably going to put some loop cuts in by hand. So Control R, that's kind of got one there. So okay, and then we're going to select these two faces. And then hit Alt and extrude along normals again. And we'll just do the same trick. Tap G twice. Tap G twice. And then we're just going to select all of these and go to our weighted normal and turn that off, and then right click, shade flat. And look, that's nothing like a windscreen wiper looks, but to your eyes right now, that's good enough. So we're going to rename this windscreen wipers, and we could potentially separate them out, but I think I'm okay with them being as they are. And then we go to the top view. And let's just push number 3 to go into face select, and we'll select this face here. Yeah, that looks about right. If I could maybe go further along, maybe this one. And we'll hit Shift and S, cursor to selected. And then we're going to make a cylinder. And it's going to be huge. We're going to set the vertices to 10. And we're going to scale it right down. And just from an optimization point of view, let's hit the backslash key to solo that, and we're just going to delete this bottom face because we're going to see it. It's just an extra polygon that we don't need. And now I want to put, just complaining about making an extra polygon, let's do the things the right way. So let's make sure that we've got this edge selected, and then we're just going to pull it up until it just cuts into the geometry. I'm going to set material to our car plastic, and then what I want to do is I'm just going to move it slightly along. Let's go to top view to do that, somewhere like that. And we're going to select a face. So let's try and find a logical face here. This one looks like a good bet for something coming out. And then we're just going to extrude it, and we'll move it along the windscreen and then pull it up to the arm. Okay, and then let's try and view it from this side. So it's a little bit of faffing about here, and then we're going to extrude the face again, and we're just going to cut into the geometry for now. And then let's do a bit of repositioning of vertices and try and make this look a little bit more believable. You know, it's not great, it's not perfect, but it's going to do for this. You can spend more time making the perfect windscreen wiper if you want. And this is where your creative direction comes in. Like, you know how you're going to use this model. You know which part's going to be seen. If this is going to be a close-up of a windscreen wiper in your shot, then you need to put the time in. Let's just see if we can do anything with this. So I'm just going to solo this, backslash key, and I'd like to kind of bring it more into this bit of the arm. So let's hit Alt and E to extrude faces along normals, and then we're going to select both of these faces, delete the faces, and then select these two, merge at last, these two, merge at last. And then I think we'll just do the sliding trick again, so we can select both of these sets and slide down, and there we go. So we should now be able to use this windscreen wiper again, and the reason that we couldn't model one windscreen wiper and use it twice is this need to fit the geometry of the windscreen. And there are some more advanced techniques that we could have used using like lattice modifiers to deform, but sometimes just a quick and easy solution does the job, and I'm happy with how we've landed on this. If we want to animate these, and again it might be something we do in the future, then we'd need to look at some other solutions. Okay, I think this needs to be moved over slightly. Brilliant. Okay, so done. Let's do a little palette cleanser with an easy job. Let's put in our number plate. So we'll go to the front view, and if we select this vertex here and then hit Shift and S, cursor to selected, and we make our plane, it's going to sit on that line rather than being floating in space. And then we're just going to scale it down, and we're actually not too far from that thing, so it sits a little bit below this line. And then that's not scaling because this happens to me quite a lot. It's set to individual origins. If you change that to bounding box center and then scale. So if you ever find that things aren't behaving the way they are, you expect, make sure you've got the correct pivot mode selected. And then I just want to extrude this forward, otherwise I'm going to flip my faces. Something like that. And we'll just pull it back. Now it needs to sit a little bit proud because the bumper is curved. And I actually think the whole thing needs to come up in size just slightly and bring it down. So we're probably going to texture this later on, so I'm kind of happy to leave it as it is. Certainly in the UK and Ireland where I am, front number plates are white, but feel free to give it any colour that you want. What I would like to do is put a couple of number plate screws in. You can't really, they're kind of there. I think I'm just going to make some black ones. So we're going to do something super simple. Shift and A, mesh, circle. And I want to set it to 8 vertices, so it's low poly. Scale it right down. Let's just put it forward so we can see it. Keep scaling it down. And maybe go even smaller. What we're going to do now is hit the, we're going to tab into edit mode and hit F to face it. And I just want to, probably don't need to do this, but select these 2 vertices and hit J, because remember we're cutting across a face that already exists. And do the same thing and it will put a vertex in. So now I've got a quad. These are now facing the wrong way around, so we'll select them all and flip. And then if we Alt Shift, there's loads of ways to do this. I know I've chosen to select the edges, but let's do that. Hit E to extrude backwards. And we've got a little number plate bump. So let's get this in position. And we'll give it our car plastic material. I'm limiting myself to 3 or 4 materials for now. And again, it'll make sense as we get into it, the advantages of doing that. Mainly because if I want to make any changes, I'd have 1,000 different materials. You know, if you wanted red bumpers for some weird reason, everything's synced. Kind of looks cool. I don't know if you want to consider this as a special edition to celebrate the growing success of my channel, Peugeot, but yeah. It tends to make things look a bit more like coherent as well, just having a more limited palette. So we're now going to mirror this, add modifier search, and mirror, and we'll just apply it to here. And it looks like these are sitting a little bit flush at the moment, so I'll select everything and just pull it back. And what I want to do now is apply the mirror modifier, select the number plate last, and it sometimes has a habit of flipping faces when you do that, so tab in, Alt N, recalculate outside, and we should be good. And I'm just going to take this number plate and pull it back. So Shift and D, and then move it to the back of the car. And let's get it into position. And so I can't really see it because it's white on white, so let's change the number plate. And also this is bad practice here. So it's default white, it's not actually material, so I need to make a material there. We'll just call it front number plate. And we can kind of leave it as white. And then let's do the back number plate. And we'll leave it as, we'll make it UK spec yellow. And again, you have the same problem. So for now, we can kind of float it in there for now. Cool. That was nice and easy. Oh, and my bolts are there, but I haven't rotated the whole thing. So there we go. Rotate 380 degrees. Let's do some windscreen. Can you tell I'm putting off doing these wing mirrors? Let's do the window washers. So select this face. I just like to select an edge that is near where I want my final object to be, so I have less moving about. Shift and S to cursor to selected. Shift and S, cursor to selected. There you go. And we're just going to make a simple cube and scale it down. And it's not something we've really done much in this tutorial, but as a habit, I tend to solid the object and delete the bottom face if I know that it's going to be cutting through geometry like that. With modern computers, this doesn't really offer you many benefits, but anything you can do to reduce your poly count for games is a good idea. And let's set this to car plastic again. And, you know, honestly, not really sure what these look like. Let's tab in. Don't need it to be so tall. So I'll bring this up. And I'm going to just guess what I think this should look like. So I'll select both of these. Scale in. And then we'll slide this one forward. And we'll slide this one forward. And this thing is like, maybe I'll leave that. Maybe I'll put it down like that. Yeah, that's better. Doesn't need to be super detailed. It doesn't even need to be incredibly accurate. It just has to be visually interesting. And I think that does the job nicely. So let's pull that over and pull it down. And then we're going to use our mirror modifier again. Nice. I think we can reuse this to make our aerial. So let's select one, pull it up, and we're going to turn off our mirror modifier now. And if we tab into edit mode and then select this edge, Shift S, cursor to selected, then we select this object, Shift and S, selection to cursor, it's going to snap it into that cursor. So, and there we go, kind of half the work done already. And again, like, you don't want to overuse things that you've made. If it calls for its own special part, you should make that special part. But at the same time, if you can use what you already have, not only does it save you time, but it kind of gives you a bit of visual cohesion, which is always nice. Can you tell I used to have a pretentious job where I had to say stuff like this all the time? Okay, so we just need to put a cylinder coming out the top. So tab number 3 to select the face, and then we'll snap our cursor to selected again. Shift A, mesh cylinder. It's going to be massive. Let's scale it down. Backslash key to delete the face. Back in again, keep scaling it down. Something like this, I think. You probably want to go thinner than you think. And then we're going to scale it up like this, and it looks like there's kind of 2 steps to it. So we'll hit I to inset and make it even thinner. And then we're going to extrude up. And I can't remember if I drew an aerial in. I did. So I think at this point we can rotate everything to try and get a better match on things. And you'll see that because we scaled the way that I did, we've kept the origin point at the bottom. And then we can select these, and if we hit GG to slide, it will slide down. We want to go away. We want to carry on. This is hard to explain. We want to carry on along this trajectory, but in a direction that doesn't exist yet. So if we now hold down the Alt key, you can see that we can stretch this up, and it carries on. We can tilt this down slightly. Okay, and I think it's got like a little sort of top piece to it. Oh, something weird's happened here. That's because I didn't select all of my vertices. This is the trap of not being in X-ray mode. So let's just select, turn on X-ray mode to be safe, and select all of these. Let's try again. Sorry for giving you dud information. So hit G twice to slide down, and then we'll hold down the Alt key to give ourselves the reverse of that. And we'll just rotate it to bring it a bit more in line. And now let's have a go at doing this top bit. So we're going to do something super simple. E to extrude, S to scale, and then E to extrude. It's actually continuing our line of geometry anyway, so we're all good. E to extrude, S to scale, and we'll just pull this out a little bit. So we're going to do it on the Z axis, and we're going to hit Z twice to make it follow the normals. And I think we're good with that. Such a tiny detail. And we're going to make this car plastic. I've maybe made this a little bit fine. It's maybe just a tad too thin. So if we want to scale that up now, the best way to do that is to select this loop. Oh. And then all of these, and then just scale up. And tap the Z key twice so that we're on the correct axis. And then we want to select these and pull these down again because we've extended the length of that as well. So a bit of tweaking. Yeah, I think that works. I've maybe made it thinner than I would want for a low poly model. Just trying to think if there's an easy fix for that. Yeah, we could literally just scale up this end and then do the other end. So let's do that. And then let's select both of these and scale. Hit the full stop key and we'll choose individual origins. No, that's not going to give me what I want. That's because I've still got this end selected. Sorry. Let's try again. So we're going to select both of these ends and then scale. There we go. Yeah, that's looking better. So that was a little bit more faffing about than I intended, but so we've got our aerial in, and let's do. I've just realised that we have to do a back windscreen wiper, but hey, let's treat ourselves to that later on. Let's put in a quick lock here, so you can already guess how we're going to do this. Cursor selected, and we literally just need a cylinder. It doesn't need to be anything more than a 10-sided cylinder, and we'll rotate it on the y-axis. And put it underneath the door handle, something like this. It's probably close enough. I'm just going to hit the backslash key, delete that face, and we will apply our chrome material. And we also want to mirror this onto the other side of the car. So add modifier, search, mirror, bingo. Okay, I don't think I can put it off any longer, so let's do these wing mirrors. Desperately looking for anything else I can do. Oh, just before we do that, actually, I'm going to take this window trim element. I think it's looking too thin. So it's window trim here, and then we're just going to increase the depth to 0.1. And because we've done that, I actually want to pull these out slightly. So select your window trim object, tab into edit, and then if we click off and then hold our mouse over the element that we want to edit and hit the L key, it will select just that join geometry, and we can just pull this a little bit clear of the window. And do the same thing on this one. That windscreen looks good. That back windscreen, I think we just need to control shift from. Oh, control shift doesn't work in this mode. So we're just going to select these edges, and I just want to pull this down behind the wing. So yeah, there we go. That's looking better. Okay, stop stalling. Get this windscreen, get this wing mirror done. So let us move our 3D cursor to this top corner, and then we're going to hit Shift and A, and we're going to go Mesh, Add Single Vert, and then we're going to go into the top view and make sure we've got our vertex mode selected with the 1 key, and then we can pull this single vert in. I think we're just going to have to go into this shading mode, and let's just do these two. Now, I don't know why they never line up on the blueprints, right? I think this is part of the reason I find it so tricky. So we're basically going to pick a view and try and make the design work best with that view. So let's go with this view and select these two, and we'll just kind of rough out our shape. Okay, so far so good. So now we're going to find that it doesn't match up with a single set of our blueprints. And we're honestly not going to worry too much about that. Because cars look weird if they don't have wing mirrors, but can you tell me exactly what these wing mirrors look like? So as usual, I'm just trying to find a compromise between all my views to get roughly right. Remember that this is a flat view, so this part would be behind this section. So now let's see if we can get any inspiration anywhere. This is going to be the furthest point sticking out, so let's assume that these two follow this path like this. So I just select those two objects and hit extrude. And you know, this is a passable start. So what I like to do pretty early on is to try and fill in geometry where I can. I think we need some more coming across here. So I'm going to go to this side view and make something like this for now, just to get us started. And let's go to the top view. And maybe this wants to come around like this. So let's fill in this face, and let's fill in this face. And we might be changing these faces as we go, but it's a start. So now I want to continue this line. So this line wants to go along the top. Let's try and adhere to this so we can fill in this face and this face. Have I done something weird? I've done something weird here. Let's just undo. This is the danger of selecting the wrong vertices in X-ray mode. There we go. Let's try again. Hopefully you didn't do that, but okay, not bad, not too shabby. Let's basically do the same thing underneath, so we can go to the top view again actually to work from. So it's this one that we want to select, this vertex here, and we'll just plot basically the same path. We've done half the work now. And let's just connect these up. Just solo this so we can see where the weird, if there's any weirdnesses. This to me doesn't look right. I think we're getting somewhere now. So let's just select these edges now. Now we've kind of got more of a plan of what we're doing. I'm going to hit E to extrude and S to scale in, and then we'll use the G key to position like this. And I'm going to put a loop cut here so that we can connect I want to connect these faces. I don't think I do. Let's just ignore what I've just tried to do then. So we want to connect these two together, I think. And we're going to try and continue this shape across somehow. So okay, this part should be fine. Let's connect these two up. Sometimes it's just a good idea to get one part in place and then you can work out what you want to do with everything else. So remember that this part is also going to be, this is going to be this section. so it's not super visible, and I think we're just going to flatten the whole lot in a second. So let's put a loop cut in there, and that gives us a quad. And a loop cut in there. Oh, not a loop cut, sorry, connect the face. That needs to stay like that, so that means that these can now pull back. I promise in the future, guys, that I will come up with a proper wing mirror tutorial. I'm also going to let you into a secret. I have like 4 or 5 that I've made for different cars, and I tend to reuse them quite a lot because, seriously, who cares? And you can see that I'm very bad at making them. So I'm just going to keep moving geometry around till we've got something passable. I don't think we're too far off now, actually. So we need a loop cut in here, Control and R, slide it along, and then select these, merge it last. And let's just, for ease for now, oh, actually no, we can just put a loop cut here and make a quad. And do the same here. And then we're just going to shift our view around to see where we've got weirdness. So I would say this can come up. This wants to be more of this kind of shape. Okay, let's have a look at the top view because I think things are pretty weird here. There we go, bring that back. Bring this back. And this just needs to be squared up like that. Okay, I'm going to select everything, recalculate outside, and then we're going to Alt-Shift this edge, E to extrude, S to scale, and make this lip. E to extrude, G to pull back in, E to extrude again, and then we're going to look at how we're going to face this off, so it should just be these 4, and these 4, and then we've got a lot of extra geometry down here, so we just need to put in 2 loop cuts. No, we don't want to do that yet. That's going to cause us some issues. So let's just connect, select all of these and hit F to face. And do you know what? I think I'm going to just ignore it. I think it's already flat geometry. We don't need to worry. So we're just going to select these, all of these parts, and then right click on Loop Tools and choose Flatten, and it will just make sure that everything sits perfectly flat. Okay, let's go back into our... Yeah, you know what? They look alright to me. So what I want to do now is select this edge, and then we're going to hit I to inset, and then we're going to right click Loop Tools and choose Circle, and we're going to scale it down a bit and rotate it on the X-axis. Do we need to rotate? No, we don't need to, sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do is inset this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is inset this part, and then right click and choose Loop Tool Circle, and we're just going to change this to fit inside, and whoop, I think we can adjust our radius by hand like this, and then I just want to rotate the angle so it's a little bit squarer like that. Let's go to our top view, so it'll be an interminable wait whilst my hard drive fires up again. And then whoop, we hit E to extrude and pull this into the car, and I think I'd actually let's bring a bit of detail into this part as well, just to kind of create this part. So select both of these, inset, And then I'm going to slide this down. So I'm going to tap G to slide this down. And then select both of these. Extrude faces along normal. And we could get really into the detail here and just put in a few little loop cuts. Before we do that, let's tab in, select just this edge. Oh, we're going to delete these faces first. And then select just this edge. Backslash back, and then tap G twice so we can slide until we are intersecting. And then we're just going to put in 3 cuts like that. Bevel them. So I've already got my bevel selected, so select your bevel and hit Alt-E to extrude along normals, and we'll just bring that in as well. Do you know, it's close enough. I'm happy with that. Wrong view, sorry. So we're going to apply our plastic, add some material, choose our car plastic, and I'm going to right click and shade auto smooth. And I think I want to bump up my angle quite a lot, so we'll make it 180 so we then get super squishy, and then we're going to sharpen these edges again. Mark sharp. Maybe we'll mark this one as well. Yeah. And I also just want to select these edges. Should have done this at the time, really. Right click, mark sharp. And I think I'll just pull this up because I can see it's intersecting a little bit there. Yeah, that's going to do for me. Oh, one last thing to do is to select these faces, and then using your shortcut, whichever you've got, but select more. Obviously my reference is in the way. And then we're going to apply a new material in there, and we're going to use our black glass, or car glass, sorry. So we've got our wing mirrors in there too. Looking nice. Let's add our mirror modifier. It is amazing what a difference having wing mirrors and windscreen wipers makes to a car. It looks much more finished. Okay, we've got these little studs that go on the window, so we might as well do those whilst we can. So I'm going to select here, cursor to selected. We could probably reuse this actually, so Shift and D and right click to cancel, and then Shift and S, select to cursor, and I want to scale it up. And then we're going to select this face and hit G twice to pull it along the. And then if we select everything and kind of rotate it. See if I can find a better view of this to see what we're dealing with. This is what we want. Okay, so I think these are pretty flat. So we'll just go into X-ray mode, make sure we already deleted that back face. Let's just select that edge. And then we're just going to pull it forward. And then just pull the whole thing back on the Z axis. So tap Z twice, and then just, this might be a little bit of messing about to get it to line up properly. I think it's slightly too big, so we'll scale. And then adjust position. So where do we sit? Yeah, kind of like that. Maybe a little bit higher up. I thought it was going to be a nice easy job, and now I spent quite a lot of time messing about with it. And then let's go to the side view, pull these into place. And it's going to disappear from view again. That's okay, we'll deal with that in a second. Let's just go to our wireframe mode so we can see them properly. Select both of these, back into shaded, and we'll pull forward until the first one comes through. in fact till they both come through, and then we can push the other one back. Nice. And it should already be mirrored on the other side. Yep, they're in place. Okay. Let's do the indicators. I'm going to just keep working my way back. So indicators, literally just going to make a rounded cube, if that's such a thing. I think it sits kind of here on the car. Yeah. So select that face, cursor selected. And then we're going to make, let's make a plane and scale it down, and then rotate it and scale it down again, and it's pretty square. I think it's slightly wider than it is tall. And let's hit Alt and N and recalculate outside. No, let's choose flip, and then I'm going to solo it with the backslash key. And I'm just going to select these 4 vertices with bevel selected. I'm going to pull this yellow circle. Nothing's going to happen until I choose vertices. And I'm going to scale our width down. And we could increase the segments to make it more rounded if we want. And then I'm just going to select here and here, here and here, here and here. I'm hitting J each time. Then we've got our quads back again. And let's select all 4 of these, and then we're going to hit I to inset, and E to extrude, and I'm going to pull it out to about there, and then I'm going to Alt Shift my way around, and just bevel again, and then I also want to Alt Shift this edge and pull this back, and then if we choose the vertex mode and use our more key, we can now assign car plastic to there and make a new material. Hit Control and I, and then we'll need to select more again. And I think we need to make a new indicator material. Oh, we should have one actually. Indicator glass, yeah. And then go back to the car view. And we might actually need to make this, depending on. You see, ordinarily I would have built the inside of this indicator, but I don't think it's worth it for this model. So let's duplicate this and make it side indicator, and we're just going to turn up our alpha and bring down our roughness. And then we just need to take this whole thing and bring it forward. Let's keep going forward, and then select this edge again and just pull it further back. G and Y. Whoa, that's not the right key. G and X, sorry. How are we looking? Let's move our 3D cursor away so we can get a proper view of it. Yeah, nice. So I want to apply a mirror modifier. And I'll just mirror across the body again. Nice. It's looking really good. Okay, I'm going to save. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got going on the back, and there's lots of easy details to add in. So we've already got a lock in place. We've got this little washer jet to the side. So let's select this edge, It's actually on the other side, but we're just going to manually move it over. So Shift A mesh circle, and 8's fine with me. Ooh, it gets so fiddly at this kind of size. And then let's rotate it on the x-axis so it kind of sits. Just pull the whole thing forward so I can see it. We'll keep scaling down a bit more. And now I'm just going to do this in solo mode, I think. So it's easy to see. So I'm going to hit E to extrude and S to scale. And it's a very tiny little detail we're making here, so I won't get too hung up on it. But don't do it like that. That is not the way to make that shape. So we're going to hit into the side view and hit E to extrude, and then E to extrude again, and we're going to scale it down. And hit F to face it, and I'll just do my pointless turning it into quads, even though it doesn't matter. And we'll select this edge, hit E to extrude, and we're going to tap Z twice to extrude along the normals. And I think this is a little bit big, so let's just scale it down a bit. Pull it back into the car, hit G twice, and we'll give it the car plastic material. And then I actually want this on the other side of the car, so I can move over the Z key, the X axis, sorry. So I've been making this tutorial for a very long time now. I'm starting to make mistakes. A little bit further, I think. It's pretty central actually, so it's kind of sitting to the right of that lock. And then we'll just pull it out with the Z key. There we go. Okay, let's do these reflectors, and I'm just going to make, in fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 4 faces and hit Shift and D, and then hit P for selection. Then we've separated out some geometry, and if we select these 4 and then tap G twice, we can slide it. So we're just going to make kind of the shape that we need. Let's go into the back view, and I think they're on our blueprints if we turn on X-ray mode. Yeah. So we can tap these along, pull these up, and we know it's going to conform to the shape of our bumper. So we've got the same problem here, we've got nothing moving it up until we hold down the Alt key. And then I think we could get away with beveling these if we wanted to. So select those 4 vertices and choose vertices. And just give it a slightly rounded edge. So we're going to select those 2, hit the J key, these 2, hit the J key, and then we're going to select all 4 faces, and then just pull it very slightly forward. And then we're going to select this edge all the way around, and mark sharp. My blueprints are off a bit there, Calcipri. So let's pull them down, and we will give this let's make a new material. So we're just going to delete all of these. Oh, red trim plastic kind of looks alright, let's go with that. So that's our rear reflectors. And what else can we easily do? Should get this rear windscreen wiper done, and then I think that's a good point to leave things. Okay, so we're going to select this back windscreen and hit Shift and D to duplicate it, and then we want to go and apply our mirror. It'll be a good exercise to see if you could do this without me showing you how, but you know, let's just carry on for now. So for a bit of a challenge, let's make this slightly sloped. So we're just going to select each of these vertices in turn. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do this from the top view. And we're just going to slide them up so we've got a bit of an angle. Let's kind of work out something like that. So I'm making more work for myself by making a part more complicated than it needs to be. And it looks like our windscreen wiper actually starts there, so then we're going to put a loop cut in here, and we might just need to neaten up that edge a little bit more. So that the path is consistent enough. So I'm going to select all of these. Yeah, it goes pretty much to the edge like that. And then hit Control and I to invert a selection, invert the faces, and then car plastic. And then we're just going to extrude those normals like we did before, and put a loop cut in there, and bevel it like we did before. So I'm going to do exactly the same steps. And we'll select all 4 of these faces. Alt-E to extrude face along the normals. Pull it out. I think I've pulled it out too far, so with that still selected I can reduce that amount. And then we'll select both of this end here. Slide in like this. And then let's just do the same thing here. Let's put a loop cut in here and a loop cut a bit further back this way. And we'll just extrude along normals. And let's actually make something for our rear arm to attach to. So let's extrude face along normals this way as well. Does that look a bit weird? I think that's okay. Right click, shade flat. Yeah, I think that's okay. And then let's, do I want to reuse this? No, let's just make another cylinder for now. So the 3D cursor is kind of in the right place already. And we'll scale it down. Rotate on the x-axis. Keep scaling down, it's still too big. And then we'll rotate it so it's slightly angled. Just get rid of that back face once we can. Okay, we'll start with a single face for now. And let's extrude. So it looks like it goes up and then across like this, so it's a bit of a different design. And at the moment all of this is way too fat, so we're going to Alt Shift this edge and then hit G twice to, no, we're not going to do that because we haven't selected everything that I want there. And we'll do the same on this side. And then if we hit G twice now, can we slide? Yeah. We're missing an edge somewhere. Maybe we're not. Let's try turning it into vertex mode and doing the same trick. Might just do it in a couple of stages. That's better. Okay, and then we're going to select these 4 vertex and pull it roughly into line with that arm. Nice. And then we're going to make this thicker. This needs quite a lot more geometry, it looks too slight at the moment. So we'll do the same trick that we did before. We'll make a loop cut here. And then select both of these. Alt-E, extrude faces along normal. And we'll go quite far out. And then let's just solo this so we can see better. Delete both of these faces. And then what have I done here? This is an easy fix, but we're just gonna delete all of these faces. and then we'll just connect everything up by hand. So delete these as well, and then we could potentially just do this and work our way around. And we don't really need to worry about these back faces, so okay, and then let's just slide these 4 down, and I just want to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more visual interest, so we'll select this edge, hit E, extrude faces along normal, pull it up, and then you know what I'm going to do already, I'm just going to slide, and we might select both of these and slide. Just looks a bit more interesting. Yeah, there we go, it's not too bad. So we just need to make sure that's the same material. Car plastic. Boom. Okay. Are we missing anything? We've got the chassis and the exhaust to do. So I'm going to save and then we're going to tackle those. So I had to pause the tutorial to go and get a haircut, and you know, it's a completely new day now. It's a little peek behind the curtain, but we're going to get this finished off now. So we have got the underside of the car to do, and we're going to keep it pretty rough because we're not going to see it. And there's going to be a phase 2 to this tutorial where we're going to do a lot more detailed stuff. So maybe we will do some of the mechanicals underneath for that, but you know, you're maybe a bit bored of this tutorial now at this point, so let's get this finished. We've also got the exhaust to do, and then I think we are probably about there. So first thing to do is we're going to hide these wheels, so let's find these, and this would be a good point to name them just so we keep track. So front wheels, and we're actually going to delete these because these wheel nuts are a separate object, so let's combine them. So we're going to select this one first, and then our other wheel, and we're going to hit Control and J. Let's also just turn on our screen keys. You don't need to do that, that's just for me, but Control and J to merge, and it should mirror on the other side, and then we will just duplicate this back. So Shift and D, move on the Y axis, and put them into position, and then we'll name these back wheels. I'm going to separate these out and rig everything later on in phase 2, but yeah, we're good. Okay, so we're going to select front wheels and back wheels, and we're just going to hide them for now. I'm going to quickly fill in these wheel arches. So we're going to select these 4 like this, hit the F key, and then we are going to tap F until it fills, and it should, if we're lucky, make quads. Yep, that's looking good. Again, it doesn't really matter too much, he's going to be hidden by our wheels, but if we can make quads while we can, we should make quads. So let's select those 4, make sure we've selected the right things, tap F, and then, so at the moment it's going to bring over some of our materials might not be right. Let's just select this one and choose car plastic instead. Nice, obviously it's done it on the other side because we're mirrored. So now we're going to select this edge all the way around, Alt and Shift to select everything, and we're going to right click and choose Mark Sharp, and then I just want to Alt Shift, sorry, no, just Alt, let's try again, Control Shift, there we go. Sometimes it takes my brain a minute to get back into tutorial mode, and then we're going to hit E to extrude, and we're just going to pull it on the X axis, so it's kind of roughly in line with the wheel arches. And then we're going to select this vertex, and it's actually merged it for me because I've got my auto merge on. If it hasn't, it'll be like this one here, so I'm going to select this one and then this one last, hit M and merge it last. You know how to do this by now, but I'm just going through all the steps anyway. Control Shift to select that edge, and we're just going to check that we've got clipping turned on in our mirror mode, which we have. I'm going to hit E to extrude, and we're just going to pull it in so it snaps together. Okay. So that's the easiest part done. Now we need to start filling in this part. So what we should be able to do, if everything has gone to plan, is we can select these 4 and hit F, and these 4 and hit F, and then these 4. And so those are still quads. We're probably going to cut across there, but we're not going to worry about that yet. And now we're going to try and grid fill this section. So we need to make an edge here. Those 2 vertices selected and hit F. And then we've got 1, 2, 3. So we've got 2 vertices in the middle there, so we just need to put our loop cuts like that. And we're also going to need a vertex here. So we're going to hit Control and R, tap G twice to slide it. So we should be matching all around, and then we're going to Control Shift, keep working around, select all of these. Make sure you select that one, and we're going to try and finish on this corner again. Whoop. Shift to select that one, and then Shift to select this one. So we'll just check we've got everything selected. And we're going to hit F3 and choose Grid Fill, and there we go, it's worked a charm this time. So that's that part of the chassis, and we just need to sharpen. If you've got any like weird shading here, you just need to sharpen these edges. So this needs to be sharp. This actually doesn't really matter too much if it isn't, but so we're going to clear sharp there. Okay, making some progress. This is where it gets a bit trickier. We need to work out what we're going to do here, because we want this slope. So let's start by filling from here to here. So we're going to select that edge, extrude on the Y-axis. Just didn't do that. I've made a right mess of that. E to extrude, then Y, and then we're just going to try and merge these. It looks like mine's also merged again. And let's decide what we're going to do here. Let's extrude this edge again. Hit E to extrude, and then we're going to rotate our view, and we're going to try and match it up as best we can with the wheel arch. So we'll pull up something like that, and then we're going to select this vertex and that vertex, merge it last, and then we've got a quad here, so we'll merge there, and then let's see how this goes. So we're going to select these 4, 1, yep, it's going to work out nicely for us. Don't worry too much if yours doesn't. It doesn't really matter so much on the underside of the car, unless you're planning on rendering entirely the bottom of the vehicle, which, you know, it's a choice. Wouldn't be my choice, but you go for it. Okay, let's just see if we can do this. We might run into some problems here, so because we've definitely got more edges on this side, but I think we're going to get away with this. 1 quad there, boom. That was easy. Oh, have I shown something odd? Something doesn't look right. That's because I've connected to the wrong vertex there. Easily done. Okay, got 2 carried away. So let's just sharpen these edges so it sorts out some of our shading issues. So we want these to be sharp, and these to be sharp, and this one. And then let's look at cutting up an edge set through. So we're going to use our knife tool, which is K, the shortcut is K, and we're just going to cut roughly like this and keep going around, and we're going to finish there, and we're going to do the same at the back, and this might ruin some of our quads, and we'll decide how much we actually care about that. Maybe we'll do something like this. And if we want to turn this one back into a quad, we can just put a loop cut there, so we've got 4 vertices again. And we're also just going to put a loop cut here and connect these up with J key, and we'll do the same at the front. Make sure you hit J and not F. The amount of times I get that wrong, and it's these ones here. Okay, and now we can just start selecting. I think I hit the K key, there we go. Now we're going to hit number 3 to go into face select, and we're just going to select all of these. So combination of the shift key, control and shift. Just take your time. You can do it in stages if you want. And let's fill in these parts. Perfect. We can go to material and choose car, plastic, and a sign. So it looks like we've got a bit of depth to our bodywork, and then we've got a chassis underneath. And if there's any way you want to sharpen up, we could maybe sharpen this edge. I don't think we need to, but it also won't hurt to do it. And this edge needs sharpening up, and we can actually unsharpen this. So we'll clear sharp. Okay, looking good. Let's bring back our wheels, back wheels. And I've lost my front wheels. And then if you look here, you can see this, we've got the exhaust to do. We've also got the little spare wheel, which again, you might not see it, you might never see it, but let's put it in because we've already made it, so it's no extra work. So we're going to Shift and D to duplicate this object. We'll just put it back on the G, and we're going to turn off our mirror mode. We're going to rotate this on the Y axis 90 degrees, and I've actually got a little error on my wheels that I need to fix on the back side, but you're not going to see it here, so it doesn't matter. I'm guessing you probably won't because you've probably done it properly, but so we're just going to pull that up so it kind of sits like that. It's a bit of an unnecessary detail, but when viewed from the back you might see that space, so we'll put that in. I'm probably not going to bother doing the spare tyre cage on this version. We might add it in later on, but I think we're good. Okay, let's do the exhaust, and we've got a bit of a, I don't think this is standard, this is kind of a bit of a chunky exhaust, but I like how this one looks, so we'll go with this for this model. And also, realistically, we should cut this out. I'm going to save that for the second part of the tutorial. I think I also just want to slide these so they look a bit more uniform. This looks a little bit ragged, so we're just going to hit G a couple of times on these to smooth these edges. Obviously, if you want to go and add these details in now, I think you've probably got the skills at this point. You know, we're looking at these things, little circles. You could make these the same way we made the window details, but we will cover them in future tutorials. But I think at this point it's important to get something finished so we can move on, because it'd be very easy to lose loads of time just making really tiny details that you might not even see on your finished render. Okay, so we're going to go to our 3D cursor and we're going to select kind of here, and we're going to hit Shift and A and make a circle. And I think I want this to be 10-sided. You can choose how detailed you want it to look. And we're going to rotate on the Y axis, and then let's see where we are in the model. Let's pull it back. So we're going to scale it down. And it's kind of chunky, the back box of an exhaust. And actually, they're not perfectly round. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this circle. No, maybe I'm not actually. Let's just undo that. So we're going to make the circle on the inside differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these vertices. Nope, I've selected one more than I want. These vertices. I'm going to delete them. And then we're going to select this edge, Shift and D, put it over, and then we're going to rotate the whole lot 180 degrees. And then we're just going to connect these up with the F key. So you can make a wider back box, something like that. That's maybe a more standard one. I think this one's more rounded, but I prefer mine to look a bit like that. So we'll go like this, and then we are going to quad these up. We should just be able to tap our way down. And what I want to do is insert slightly, and then extrude back, so we've got a bit of a lip. I'm going to select this edge and extrude back. And we're just going to check that we've extruded straight. Yep. Okay, so what I want to do is go into solo mode with the slash key, backslash key. I'll just pull this back. And there's 1,000 ways to do this, but I'm going to do it the lazy way. So we're going to hit Shift and S, cursor to selected. And we're going to go to Object, Set Origin to 3D Cursor. I'll just move my reference here. We're going to add a mirror modifier on the Z-axis, and then we're just going to hit. Apply. Perfect. And then we are going to select these faces. We're going to inset again, and then we're going to right-click and choose Circle. And we might need to tick this radius button and bring the radius down. And then I just like things to be neater, so I'm going to rotate so those edges are straighter. I think we want to come down even more. Maybe something like that. You can choose how chunky you want your exhaust to be. Might go a little bit bigger. It's a performance exhaust after all. And we're going to select this face, and they need to be slightly offset. So maybe like top right, like that. And let's just select more, because I might have pulled that back slightly by mistake. So we'll go to right click, loop tools, and flatten. Oh, I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to select this edge, and we're going to hit E to extrude, and pull out. And let's unsolo now, and pull the whole thing back. It actually sits behind, maybe somewhere like there for now. And we're going to do, again, you get to choose kind of how you want your exhaust to sit. So this one's got a bit of a kick up and then one down, so I'm just going to rotate this very slightly and move it up. And then I'm going to rotate mine back like this. But you might want a straight out one. It's entirely up to you. And then we're going to hit I to insert, E to extrude, and we're going to pull it back. And I think that's going to do the job for this. And again, it's not super accurate, but it's also these little details that really make the difference between it being just a low poly model and like a high detailed low poly model. So let's make our materials. So we should have a chrome already, so we'll apply that. And then I'm going to select that face, we're going to make a new material, and we're going to choose our emptiness material and assign that. Okay, so I think we are basically done. There's one little thing that I want to fix on the front. I'm just going to slide this vertex so it's less strained as a quad. That should just help with some shading, and we'll just move these around a little bit. There's one other thing that I want to fix on these wheels, on this car. And you probably haven't made this mistake, but I've managed to offset the inner part of the wheel. So we're just going to bring that over and straighten it up. At the moment, you can see that these wheels are paper thin and they're only one-sided. So again, for this tutorial, it's not super important to have the detail on the other side of the wheels. So we're just going to do a really quick fix. So I'm going to hit E to extrude this edge again and just pull it in, so that's kind of the tire width. Then we're going to hit E and slide it back in. So it's almost touching, you don't want it to pass through the wheel. And then we're also going to just add in a solidify modifier to thicken the wheel. And hopefully it's not going to pass through the wheel. So we're just going to play around with it, and we want it kind of, even just 0.2 should do the job. So now you can see, and we just want to make sure we've got the right shading on this part of the wheel. So we'll select these edges and then hit tab. Hit the one key to select vertice, and then we'll just expand out more, and we're going to apply our car plastic for this for now. We will make some proper tyre materials in the future. So now if we go back into solo mode, perfect, and we could duplicate we could make the change on the second wheel, but I think it's quick and easy just to duplicate our wheels back into position. So Shift and D and pull them back. And there we go. We have finished phase 1 of the tutorial. And if you've made it all this way through, well done. It's obviously been a long tutorial, but hopefully you've learned some really useful techniques and the kind of fundamentals of what's involved in making your own low poly cars from blueprints. What we're going to do next in phase 2 is we're going to look at some more advanced stuff that's obviously entirely optional, and you'll be able to kind of dip in and out depending on what you want to achieve. So we're going to look at UV unwrapping correctly, maybe design a livery for the car. We're going to bring in some of the mechanicals, so we'll look at some suspension and brake disc stuff. We're going to do some rigging and animating, so we'll kind of rig up a basic steering system. We'll make the wheels move correctly as the car drives across the screen. I think I want to look at doing a high poly version of this, so how we can turn this into a high poly version with separated panels. Because I'm working on a game at the moment, we're then going to cover how to bake that into a lower poly mesh. That's a really interesting set of techniques and things to cover. And I also want to look at doing some different wheels and customizing it, maybe making a kind of cyberpunk version or a resto mod thing. So yeah, I really hope this has been useful. If you want to support my work, I've got an itch store. I actually have a little store where I sell my 3D illustrations as mug designs. If you're a car fan, that might be of interest to you. I've got a Patreon, which has a lot of stuff on the free tier, but if you want to support me there, that'll be massively appreciated. I do this for free because I've got so much from the Blender community. I've learned everything through YouTube, and I want to be able to pay some of that back. But anything you can do to support me is obviously massively appreciated. And I really hope you want to do the next part. Come hang out on the Discord, show me how you got on. If you got stuck, I'd love to help you. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.